Hello, friends. Welcome to a new episode of this podcast, Merging Minds, powered by BeautyWorks. Today, I am extremely excited. Today, I have invited a Spanish friend of mine. I always say that he's one of my top leaders, but he's really one of my favorite leaders in this industry. I met him through the pandemic. We followed each other on social media. We became real close personal friends. And I thought that this series of leadership episodes wouldn't be a complete series if he wouldn't come here. My guest today is Julio Leal. Julio Leal is the director or head of localization at a company called Spendesk. Julio Leal is based in the beautiful city of Malaga, and he is a frustrated archaeologist. He has a big passion for ancient languages, archaeology, and from that passion, he built this career of localization, right? Julio also has an MBA. He completed an MBA, an executive program digital team management at the University of Navarra. And his big passions are CrossFit. You should see him. He's like this stuff. And traveling around the world, especially to Central Europe, to Central Asia, which is his favorite area in the planet. Have I missed something, Julio?
Hello, Javi. Hello, everyone. So excited to be here. And thank you again for inviting me. It's just a real pleasure to
Yeah.
share this podcast with you. Finally, I got invited.
Yes, it was your time, my friend. It was your time. We couldn't do this without you. I couldn't do it without you. And for those who follow the podcast, those who listen, they tune into this channel to listen to leadership stories and Merging Minds. The part of Merging Minds that I do, along with the other part is run by my colleague Gabriel. I try to focus a lot on bringing the audience real human leadership stories, right? Like I'm thankful that through the job I do, I get to meet people like you, and I get to make friends and get to talk about the professional environment and how you guys work, how you lead teams, right? So today, I think you could give us some examples on this, right? How many years have you been leading teams, Julio, so far?
Well, it's been a long time managing teams,
Yeah.
and I mean, it's something that you do with passion. I think it's something that comes sometimes naturally, and it's something that I really enjoy doing it. Mostly because I'm a very human centric person. I love human interactions, and when you are leading teams, managing all your team is part of your main responsibilities, is at the core of the success of your team and your program. So I really enjoy leading teams. I love coaching people, and I love to see people in my team grow and move into careers along the way. So I'm really excited to see when people succeed as part of the any team that I'm part of.
Yeah. And tell us a bit about your experience. How did you get started in leading teams, and when was that? And we don't want to go so long down memory lane. You can just tell us, okay, a few years
Yes.
ago. Tell us.
Well, I think it comes as part of the natural progression of a localization program, because obviously, as the company is evolving, as the program is evolving, part of your responsibility is bring new skills and bring new roles into your team, because you need to make sure that your program is mature enough to lead the localization space within your industry. So as you are evolving as a team, you start hiring new people with new sets of skill, and you want to make sure that these new skills are bringing added value to the company. So it comes naturally, right? So you start with project managers, then you come with more developers, and you start interacting with other teams, and you gradually see the need to incorporate new people into your team. So I think it's an exciting part of being um, a head of localization or a director of localization. Bringing people to the teams and see them how they grow.
So, okay, we haven't gone down that memory lane so much, but let me ask you: can you think of some particular experiences that have shaped your understanding of effective and human leadership, particularly when we talk about fostering human connections within your teams? That
Well, ultimately, I think it's something that we have discussed a few times in the past, and it's about everything around empathy, trying to see things from others' perspective. And I can give you a clear example of how empathy is one of the key skills that you may have as a leader. And it's just, for instance, we had someone in the team who was constantly not delivering as that person used to be doing in the past. So after a few conversations with the team member, we kind of realized that this person was having personal problems that were affecting his way of doing his work, and he was always
Hmm.
a top performer. So after having conversation with that person, it was clear that he needed some time off because he needed to solve those personal issues. So uh, we as a team and we as a company, we make sure that we gave this person as much time as he needed to solve his personal problems and become a top performer again.
Yeah.
So yeah, we gave this person as much time as he needed to come back fresh and fully prepared to take on new challenges. So after a few months, he contacted me saying he was ready and he was willing to get in the team again. So yeah,
Hmm.
we opened the door for him, and we were not surprised to see that his comeback was as strong as an ever. He felt very thankful, and he really appreciated the support that we as a team and we as a company gave him. And it was not a surprise. It was not a surprise to see that after a few months he started performing as he was used to perform in the past. So when you really see your team members as what they really are, human beings with with personal problems inside the job, outside the job. So it's good that you always have empathy and that you try to walk in everyone's shoes in order to see where the needs may are and how can you coach the team.
Yeah, you and I are both Spanish. You and I would grow up in the 90s in Spain, right? And I think at that up to some point, and by the way we are as a society, as a country and stuff like that, these things you just mentioned now, and this way of leading people and of being empathetic with people in your team is something that is still pretty new to us, right? It's like this is not this is unfortunately not the norm, right? The norm in Spain, right? People are not used to this. Like, was there any particular moment that you realized that you should be starting doing this, or perhaps was it the industry that you saw that just made you think like this? Because if there's one thing about our industry is that, hey, we're in a very multicultural industry, right? And you need to adapt when you work with Americans, Japanese, French, or I don't know, right? But what do you think?
Well, I totally agree with you that there might be some cultural factor involved in how you lead and manage teams. But to be honest with you, the way that I always see leadership and managing people is always try to be the manager that you always wanted to have, right? When you were at that stage of your career, someone who is supporting you, someone who is coaching you, someone who is actually letting you fail and make mistakes so you can learn from them rather than just always showing you the right path. So someone who is full of empathy, that has been walking that path before, and that he's totally into your growth and make you succeed, and doesn't see you as as a threat. Instead, he's seeing you as an ally. So all those things that when you are starting your career, all those things that you really want your manager to be, that's exactly how you should be behaving and acting.
I hope that everyone listening out there, please be empathetic with those around you. I know it's difficult, it costs a lot, but it really helps, right? There's
Yes.
there's another thing that I think is really connected to empathy, right? Empathy is like, of course, being connected to those putting yourself in the shoes of those that you're working with, that those you have around you, those you live in, personal and professional atmospheres, right? And
Yes.
what I think is like empathy is a key skill, soft skill or human skill in building strong professional networks, right? I think since I know you, that that has always been a priority. You always go to events, you always go to meetups. We meet in person a few times a year. We do these things we've been doing for the last few years. How do you leverage connections and relationships to inspire and motivate uh, people that are working with you around? How do you do this?
Well, again, it's again back to my love and passion for human interaction. And especially in the last years when we are working more isolated, we are working more from remote locations. I think that these human interactions are needed more than ever. And at the same time, I think that it's also a good way to actually come up with new ideas, open up your mind, um, because sometimes it's not a question of reinventing the wheel again. When you attend these events, either in localization or any other industry, you actually come to realize that there might be other ways of doing things, right? And that
Mhm,
things that you never thought that could be a solution are a solution, and that people may have ideas that you never came up with. At the same time, it's also a good idea to come to these events to create close connections and not only contacting people when you actually need something from that people. I think it's good
mhm,
that you try to come up with a constant agenda of meeting new people, old friends, that this is part of your day-to-day work, meeting new and current contacts, just to see how things are going, what they are up to, if they might need your help, if there is something that you can help them with. So I think it's always good to be, reachable, and never, be always open to having this kind of conversation. Actually, I try to do that myself. I try to meet new people, if not every week, at least every month. And I
do you
have,
do it? Or do you do it like, for example, like I do that a lot as well. Like I've never been really afraid of the rejection part. And I use LinkedIn a lot, and to just go out there to meet new professionals. Then, hey, I am Javi, and I just want to know you because I'm doing this too. And I send this particular message. I want to know you. Let's have a virtual coffee. Do you also do that? Do you,
Yeah,
yeah, that's cool. Huh?
exactly. I mean, just last week I met someone new who came as a recommendation of a conversation that I had with someone
Yes,
who I had not spoken in ages, right? So,
yes.
one connection brings you to another. And I have to tell you, Javi, that you are a great inspiration on that topic, right? You are always trying to connect with new people. You are a great connector. So I think that you are living example of how things around creating good connections is about. And I think that you
Thanks, man.
are one of the best ambassadors in the industry, and you being one of the um, main influencers in the industry, says a lot about you. So I have to tell
Wow.
you that I've also learned things about how to connect from you and other people who have, had more experience. So I think it's the way forward.
Thank you so much for saying this. Like my principle is like I'm never putting the business in front of the person, right? I'm always trying to understand. So the first thing you mentioned, empathy, who you are, what you're living with, and what's your current status, and then like we can connect yes more or like yes or no at a certain level, and then if it happens, we will do business one day, right? But I think we like most of the people still do not believe in that. So thanks for saying that
Yes.
about me, and you better start making real friends. You looking.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
have an idea, and it's and I thought that we could talk about one of the things that people sometimes they try to hide, or they don't talk too much about that. It's like and I think it's a great quality to become a great leader. No? It's like dealing with failure, Julio. um, I'm sure you're being successful now. I'm sure I know you, and I know you've been through some struggles in the past, but you've been doing this a lot. Learning from failure is something that still stick it's a thing that is still managed, it's still stigma, right?
Yeah.
Hey, how do you approach challenges and setbacks as a leader? What strategies do you follow to learn from failure and to move on and to be a
I
better
mean,
professional?
there are so many well-known sentences that I don't want to be repetitive. And
Yeah.
we all know these sentences like you learn from mistakes rather than from success. You
Yes.
either fail or, sorry, you either succeed or learn. There is no failure as such. And
Yeah.
that's just a way of setting up your mind about how to react to things that happen around you. So you as a leader also have a responsibility to allow people in your team to make mistakes, to fail as part of their jobs. Obviously, these need to be control and mitigated risk. So obviously, there should be some kind of control about what's the risk of making those mistakes. But at the same time, if you do not encourage, pushing boundaries and trying new things, you will not evolve enough, right, to succeed. So I think that's part of the culture that you need to impregnate across your company, across your team, and allow this room for growth. And sometimes growth comes through failure.
Yeah.
So I think that it's
Yeah.
important that you as a manager also have a responsibility to acknowledge and own failure. So don't be afraid to say, okay, this is my mistake, my bad, I will correct it. Just make sure that I don't do it again. How can we
Yeah.
prevent this situation from happening again in the future? And if you, as a manager and as a leader, do that, people in your team will not be afraid to make mistakes. They will be happy to
Yeah.
say, yeah, it's me, I will fix it, and I will make sure it's not happening again. So I think it should come naturally, that way of leading people through, hey, grow through mistakes. It's a natural way of growing.
Mhm. Like I've committed just in the last year some of the biggest mistakes professionally I can think of, and you've always given me super great advice on, hey, stay calm, stay chill, do this, do that. So hey, I appreciate that. That's why I wanted to ask you about this, because I think failure is something that's still like stigmatized, and we don't talk still about a lot
Yeah.
about it still, right? So yeah. And then like another thing, and this I try to talk a lot about this with the guests in the podcast, right? And it's basically about adapting and cultivating a mind and of growth and development, right, within teams, right? This is something that, once again, even though we might think this is like the classical endeavor of a leader, people still not do that much. So I wanted to ask you, how do you help and cultivate that growth and development mindset within your teams to help them like be more, hey, go to the next level, do this, do that? Is there any tips you can share with us on this regard?
Well, I can share two tips that come naturally to mind. One is lead by example. So if
Yes.
your team sees you as someone always eager to learn new things, push boundaries, get out of your comfort zone, get
Hmm.
uncomfortable with what you are doing, they will follow you, okay? Because they will see that that's part of what they need to be doing, right? So one is just do it. If you want other people in your team to do it, just do it yourself. And the other way of encouraging this kind of culture in your team is actually promoting it, right? Allow some time within your team for learning, allow some budget within your team for conferences, courses, education, learning. Now more than ever, people have the opportunity to attend webinars. So there is no high cost associated with learning these days, fortunately, and this is probably one of the best things that
Yeah.
the pandemic brought to our lives. The
Yes.
So I think that there are a lot of self learners out there that can show you a clear way of and a clear path of how to do things. So I think it's very easy if you want your team to be learning and growing. In terms of skill sets, mindset, even going to other teams and other um, um, you know industry, there should not be any problem. I have examples in previous teams where people who started as localization professionals ended up working in digital marketing teams just because
Yeah.
by so much interaction with these teams they kind of felt attached or felt the need to move into new industry, and you as a manager
Mhm.
have a responsibility to see people grow. So hey, that's how these people want to do their own career, and you are there to support them.
It's fun how you say it, because one of the things that people tend to find in our industry is the bottlenecks on top, right? There's not so many. There's just a limited amount of directors, just a limited amount of VPs, it's just a limited amount of 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 management, or high management positions. And so it's great that you say this, and then you encourage your teams to do that, right? I have
Yes.
a I have another question that I think, it's good, because I like to ask this to leaders, right? Because you are, I love the Julio of today. I love the Julio of this year that is here talking about what he's lived, right? But hey, if you could go back in time and then give your younger self a type of advice in leadership, something that you would be doing differently now, do you have anything that would be, which would that be?
Oh,
That's a difficult one, eh?
yeah. Probably it would be try not to fake to have all the answers.
Hmm.
Be humble enough to say, I don't know. I will need to figure it out. I will need I will need some time to look into that. I guess that early in your career, you feel more pressure, um, and you feel like all eyes are on you. And most of the case, that's not actually happening. It's just that it's a self-imposed pressure that we put on ourselves. And I think that being humble enough to say, I don't know, but I will figure it out. That's much better than say, yes, I know this is how it should be done, or I know how to do it, and you are not really sure how to do it, right? So,
Mhm, mhm.
and we've proven in a lot, and actually, this is something that I had in a recent conversation with a friend. It's just sometimes there is no right or wrong because there might be 100 ways, different ways of doing things, and all of them are the right way. This is just your own way of doing things. So,
Yeah.
I guess that yeah, don't put too much pressure on yourself, and be humble enough to acknowledge your your limitations.
Well, that's good, and that also serves as closing remarks. But before we conclude today's episode, I try to always ask our guests three, four, five questions that I just like to reply with one word to words, right? And there are there are questions, personal questions related to you, so people can know you a little bit more, and know the real person behind
Okay.
Julio. So if I ask you quickly, what is your favorite band and your favorite song? What would it be?
Oh,
And I've been at your home and I've seen all those beautiful pictures you have of LBs, of the Stones and everything, right? So,
yeah. Well, it would be either. I think I cannot choose between it would be either Bruce Springsteen or Michael Jackson.
and
Um,
song? Okay.
and song. I don't have such a thing as a favorite song. I have favorite
Oh,
albums or favorite tours, but
okay.
such a thing, no way I can tell you that because
Oh,
I would not be fair to the other songs that I love.
okay. What is the last thing you Googled that you can share, eh?
The last thing I Googled that I can share, yeah, I can tell you in a minute. How to, I don't know how you say that in English. So, how to remove, how do you say that when you wash things, your clothes so many times that eventually they actually get some little things that you can actually shave. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
How to remove those stains,
Cómo
right?
quitar pelotillas de la ropa.
Ni idea, tío. Sí, no, las molidas, esa mierda que tienes que quitar con eso. I
Sí.
know. Bueno, no, ni puta idea, no sé cómo se
I
dice.
have no idea. I have to say that in English.
Okay. For the podcast editor, fucking remove this one, okay? Y luego la otra es, the other one is, what do you want to be when you were 12? Like, what do
When
you
I
want to
was
be?
what?
What did you want to be when you were 12? When I was 12, my mother was, my mother, she was a teacher in university in biologics. I was like, I want to be a teacher too. I want to be a teacher too. No. What did you want to be when you were 12? And I know your father was a journalist.
Yes, I wanted to be. I knew. I'm sure. that I knew that I wanted to be in some way related to languages. So I did not have too much trouble choosing my career. But probably when I was 12, it would probably be would have loved to be archaeologist, something
Yeah,
related to going to Egypt in the 1800s and something like that. So that's kind of the fantasy that I had in my mind by back then.
that's cool. That's cool. Well, Julio, hey, thank you so much for the conversation. Like, I really wanted to bring your thoughts to today's program, so I am extremely thankful, and I hope our viewers have enjoyed discovering a little bit more about Julio Leal. Go follow him on LinkedIn, connect with him. He takes a lot of, like, he's one of his personal goals to take calls and to know more people. So feel free to reach out to him. He's got a super big expertise in localization, also in technical aspects. You collaborate with our friends at NIMSI too, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep.
So Julio's your man. Thanks, everybody. Until next time.
Ciao.